It's been so long. Hello and welcome to the Nen Show Podcast. I'm your host, Craftsdwarf, trying to remember how to get into the mindset for this podcast instead of the other one I do where everything's like ironic and terrible. This is my co-host, Mathwiz.
I had like a couple of different jokes I was going to open this podcast with, and of course, now that we've started, I've forgotten them all.
It was my fault. So anyway, here we are with our first patron pick of the Nen Show, Soul Eater, which I mean I didn't expect it. I don't know. Now I think about it, because or never mind. I'll move into that later. So I guess to start off is, if you haven't listened to the Nen Show before, we start off each episode talking about our personal histories with the series, so we can alert what spoilers to expect going forward, which won't be any outside of the reading, which I'll explain why in a bit. We do respond to comments from the previous episode of that same series. So the last series we did was Hunter x Hunter. So we're no reason to talk about Hunter x Hunter comments on a Soul Eater podcast. So yeah. So you actually have a prior experience with Soul Eater, right?
That is correct. It was like 5 years ago now. I went through the anime, and so the anime only covered up, and even then, like, I'm not entirely sure where it splits off, because it covered this stretch of chapters we did, and it gets into the next arc, but then it gets into anime original. It has like an anime original ending. So I'll be curious to see what the manga does. Where the material goes, because the anime original ending wasn't that good, and I don't think that's a hot take.
No, for my personal experience with Soul Eater, basically none. I've seen people I've seen lots of images and character designs. Like I knew some of the character names, like Death the Kid, and I knew I've seen some of the characters and like bits from the opening, but I've never watched anything. I never read anything. I did know that the anime ending is not well liked because it's original. But that stuff that adapts, is it's generally pretty well liked otherwise. It's just the ending that people don't care for. The manga ending is also controversial though, and by which I mean, so I have my two friends who I do another podcast with, What and Vindy. So I'm mostly bringing it up because we did bring up Soul Eater briefly, though I hadn't read any of it at the time, but we did a podcast on Fire Force. I was basically not involved because I didn't read it. I did, but it's complicated. I explain it on there. But they argued about the ending of Soul Eater because What read it like 3 years ago, and he thought it was he was like and Vindy thought it was great. So I have no idea what to expect from the ending. That's apparently controversial in the manga. So I haven't really been spoiled for anything, or that there's like one minor thing that I kind of know of involving a character from this arc who joins up with the main cast. I'm pretty sure. We didn't get to that point, but I know that it happens, and that's basically the only thing I know. That's not in this stretch of chapters. Because I didn't know of just a few things. Like I knew Excalibur was a thing. Just little bits from some of the stuff I've seen, but I knew basically nothing going into this. So, this is one of those few series where you have prior experience and I don't. So, it'll be neat, hopefully. But no spoilers outside of the reading, please, in the comments, because we won't bring up anything from the reading. And after next episode, Mathwiz will be going in blind too. So, So, you ready to get started?
Yeah, you call it the Soul Eater podcast, but really it's just going to be the Krona Appreciation podcast.
Good Krona. Yes.
I'm actually surprised because I remember enjoying this original stretch of chapters more when I watched it 5 years ago. Like, there was a lot of stuff this time around that was just bouncing off me, except for like Krona stuff. Obviously, that resonated with me more on this read through, but everything
because,
I don't know.
We'll talk about Krona when we talk about Krona. I guess to go over my thoughts is, again, Fire Force, I kind of didn't really like it from the beginning, and that sort of carried on. Like, I quote unquote read like 120 chapters of it, but I legitimately was like skimming through parts of it. I was just really bored and disinvested, partly because I had to read like 20 plus volumes in like a week. and then I wasn't feeling it, and then various factors that I explain. But honestly, reading Soul Eater, these 6 volumes, aside from the art, I just happen to like it better than Fire Forest, which doesn't mean a lot. But I do know how the author's art gets so much better. Fire Force is like insanity with how good the art is at times. And the art here isn't bad, but
I was surprised. I was really surprised by like the opening couple chapters. Like the first one in particular, I was like, wow, these don't look like the character designs I remember. And that, I mean, like, other than obviously like the main details, but like the like little nuances, like, oh, Maka's eyes were looking kind of weird in the first chapter, and just other things. But then like over the course of this stretch that we read, it got to more like, okay, this is more what I was kind of expecting to see.
Even just in these 6 volumes, there's a bit of an improvement. Again, it's not to the point where it is in Fire Force, and I presume at the end of Soul Eater, but it's good to see. And I guess that's the other thing about anime adaptations in general, is that when they adapt, because usually, the author gets better as it goes along. So the earlier stuff, especially the art, is usually going to be the weirdest. So as they learn how to draw their characters, like, well, the anime is going to adapt, and it's just going to look like the same, just all around, So I guess that's a reason that it would be, I get more striking. And from what I've seen, the anime looks pretty good visually. So,
Yeah, I remember really liking the aesthetic of the anime and the way it's got a Taku Iwasaki soundtrack, so that immediately wins me over. But I heard that like the manga, especially as it gets later, like it I mean, obviously it's Soul Eater. It's got very like Halloween sort of gothic, like of a visual flair to it. There's obviously like in the very first chapter, there's a gag. It's the witch Blair. And Maka's got a Blair Witch Project. Ho ho ho! That's a reference. And yeah, there's a lot of like the Blair herself uses like a lot of like pumpkin attacks, and one thing I really like, it's like an iconic Soul Eater thing, is the moon and the sun, where they've got like the faces, and it's just very striking.
That moon is creeping me out at times, because there's moments where it's like framed in a really sinister way, and or like in specific, like when they go to the sort of, I think they go to like the mindscape later, and the moon is there. I'm like, what are you doing here? Why? I'm suspicious of the moon. Let me just say that much. But that's definitely like the most like striking visual, I think, from the series, at least from just seeing it like secondhand, just because it's just like, it's a big old smiley moon. It pops, and it's immediately like recognizable, not that other visual things don't in the, like the designs are really, neat. But the moon is just a specific, simple one, because it's a notable transformation of a really common thing, I guess. It's bleeding usually. That's weird. Why? Sorry, I'm getting distracted by the moon. Okay, so let's actually talk about the manga. We get the prologue chapters. The first one, it's mostly just setting up, like, I guess it's kind of, or in general, they're setting up like the characters in the cast, who I do like overall, most of them, but the first one also goes into setting up just some of the core, like, mechanics of the setting with there's, they're getting the souls so that they can make the weapons suitable for death. And they need the witch soul, so they go to fight Blair. And
I do think that the way that this starts off, in the anime, it feels more like a standard anime, because it's like, oh, here's an episode focusing on these 2 characters. Here's an episode focusing on these 2 characters. That is more of like an anime episodic sort of structure thing. Mm-hmm. But like with the manga, especially with it being, I believe this was a monthly release.
Yes, because we only get like 4 chapters per volume, which is pretty like telltale. Like, this is a monthly series.
Yeah. So the fact that it starts off with the author himself even describes it in one of the like gag panels after the fact, where he's like, it kind of just started off with like a couple of one shots. Like, there's the story of Maka and Soul, and then the one about Black Star and Tsubaki and Death the Kid and the Thompson twins, or sisters, not twins.
Right.
So yeah, it was very, I don't know.
Which I think, so like, reading it, like, I'd say, like, the prologue's probably the weakest part, but it also, it sets everyone up. It sets up the world, it sets up the characters, and, like, the fact that it's episodic means, like, it doesn't have to do this while also maintaining a narrative. It's just like, okay, here's everything, and then we get to the story, but we already know these things. So in that way, I do think it maybe helped, as far as the opening goes. So, because the prologue chapters are really good at characterizing everyone, so, like, not just, like, we see Maka and her dad, that's a whole thing, and Soul. Blair, I don't think she's counted among the main cast. She's probably the weakest, because she's just there, and boobs, and,
I completely forgot about the one fight she gets later, and when it happened, I was just like, oh, no.
I don't want to say this is the horniest manga we've read, because we've read, like, Fairy Tail, but it's up there.
Yeah, it definitely does have that kind of similarity. Although I don't know, like, it as Ohkubo gets more into the story, it fades into the background a bit. But, like, these first couple chapters, like, every single chapter, there was some sort of, like, instance of a character's, like, horniness or sexuality, like, being brought into the story, and yeah. I mean, it's a mix.
The only saving grace for me is that Blair is kind of hot, or I find her hot. That's about it. But, like, that's, like, her character is non-existent.
I think the stuff with Maka, Soul, and Blair specifically, it's, like, doubly annoying to me, because you have, like, there's the initial impact of, like, oh, she's a hot lady, but then after the fact, like, it's always Maka beating up Soul, even though he's not. Like, there's obviously, like, Blair's the one instigating it, so you'd think she would kind of, like, hit them both or something if there's, like, what are you doing? You're goofing around. But it's always Soul who's getting beaten up. So I don't know.
Yeah,
it's just
like, because, like, at this point, he's the one, like at least in the first chapter, he's like, oh no, I'm gonna be Blair's scythe. Like, he's, he falls for her to, sort of get, behind her so that they can actually take her out and stuff. And then, but yeah, after that, it, like, she's, like he doesn't even seem to be as into it, as she's, like, fucking sneaking to his bed. Like, yeah, it's 100% her doing so that's a little, yeah, just, like, the girl gotta hit the guy for the pervy thing, like, maybe a bit too close to the trope without actually thinking about, like, why it happens,
Yeah.
Maybe there'll be something will turn out of it. I don't know.
And I will say, it's not specifically all the horny gags that kind of bounce off me. There are other recurring gags that I just don't really. The humor, it's a hit or miss with me. Like, some jokes I think are funny. Like, obviously, I tweeted the one out where it's like, I'm gonna marry the toilet, and it's like, what? So, like, it has moments where it's funny, but a lot of the recurring gags are just kind of like, eh. Like, yeah, maybe every kids, once in a blue moon, it'll be like, ooh, that was kind of a clever way to use that recurring gag. It's a different way to. Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm hoping for. Like, for a big one would be Kid, and his symmetry thing. Like, there's very clear, like, characterization and stuff, like, or, like, conflict with his relationship with his father. Like, that, it's pretty clear as to, like, that it's going somewhere. The question is, like, okay, when do we get there, though? Because until then, like, it's not a very funny joke, even though it's also very, like, it's so, like, important to this character that basically almost every interaction he's in, like, or the battles he's in, it's like, so it kind of controls a lot of it, that limits him in a way. So, and at the end of the day, I don't find it funny,
it does give
I'm
me
mostly focusing on what it's being used for. But
it kind of reminded me of how, like, in One Piece, the characters are often getting, like, limited in some way in the early battles to, like, not really show their true strength. And so for Kid, he's often, like, he keeps screwing up because of his fixation on symmetry. So, like, from that sense, I at least get it. It's kind of like ooh, how strong is he really? But a lot of the time, it's just, like, a convenient little excuse for him to not, for him to screw up, or for him to just arbitrarily kind of back out of the fight. And, like, if it goes to characterization, cool. That might not make the joke funny, but, like, at least there will be something there.
Well, because similar-ish with, like, I'm not as bothered with it as Blackstar, because he's his, like, also very, like, clear, like, has something to do with his characterization, with his, because it's a joke, he's a sneaky silent assassin, but he's also super attention whore. He needs to be, he has that issue with validation and stuff. and yeah, I didn't think about the balancing where, obviously, yeah, Black Star and Kid are super powerful and Maka isn't. So like her issue, like, her issue is her weakness, in fact. And so, or relatively speaking. So yeah, the other two, I didn't think about it in the way that, yeah, the other two are handicapped and she's not. And so it's a balancing thing. So yeah, I didn't think about that like that, actually. But anyway, yeah, her prologue chapter, or the first prologue chapter,
I think it's also a bit of a weird, I don't know, maybe it's something that comes back more into focus later, but all these introductory chapters focus on, we have to get the 99 souls in a witch soul, or, we have to do something to collect all this stuff to create the death scythe. But, very quickly that becomes not super important. Like the characters, I guess some of the missions, they're still going after souls, but then in other scenarios, it becomes a different issue entirely, and they're just kind of trying to hoard off these villains. So maybe that'll come back into focus more later.
Well, yeah, but, there's definitely unanswered questions that, I don't, why is it so important to get these weapons? There's this question, later we see Medusa and she's like, change needs to happen. She's questioning the systems, but she's also an antagonist, so it's how far are they going to go? I don't know where it's going with some of this stuff, so I'm just kind of picking up on tendencies and trends now and just okay, maybe it's something to happen with this, or maybe not. We'll see, But I'm trying to think if I have anything specific to say about the other two prologue chapters, because we get Black Star and he fights the bodyguard who
I did like Black Star's opening chapter, because I think it's a his personality is one that I think I find his flaws to be a little more endearing. Maybe it's just because he's a dumbass, and I have a soft spot for dumbasses.
He very much is. Oh, well, and and he's a little different from Kid, I guess, where Kid just can't get over his issues right away. Where Black Star, it is a choice, and when he does just choose to focus, he can become super competent. Even if it's not what he wants. He wants to have attention, where his fighting style revolves around not being noticed. So there's so he's able to put that aside a bit more easily, which so it's not just where Kid's kind of trapped, I would say, in his joke, basically. At least for now, obviously there's definitely room for development and moving on past these.
And maybe that's flaws. The point. Maybe Kid is supposed to be more confined in that way. I don't know.
See, I definitely think there's especially even in Kid, there's especially in Kid, his there's some lines he has with that his hangups are interesting, and I'm definitely curious as to see where it goes. I'll try and bring it up later.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think. I know Black Star's chapter is also kind of interesting because you get Mifune and the child witch whose name I don't remember.
Yes, Angela. I'm just on the page, so I know.
So yeah, it's just an interesting little moment, I guess, because you have this more somber character who's very serious and whatnot, and then you have just the goofy Black Star who, I don't know, but then he has this realization nah, we're gonna. So you see that there's also he's arrogant, but he's got the heart behind him. I don't know, he can be a good person.
He doesn't kill this witch who's just literally a child, and Mifune, he didn't do anything. He's just guarding a witch, and witches for whatever reason have been they're the antagonists of the system, and it perhaps legitimately so in the case of Medusa, who has done some horrible things. The other witches we have seen aren't so great either, but Angela's literally a child, so there's definitely this sort of okay, why does she need to die to make a weapon for death? That doesn't seem right. So and of course Black Star doesn't. He doesn't he had the chance to he could have killed got the death scythe and turned Tsubaki into a weapon, but he that would have involved literally killing a child and the person defending her. So we'll see. Because they did show up later during the witch meeting. So also Mifune had 5 swords for some reason when he shows up again. I don't know why, but yeah. But anyway, then we get Kid's chapter. We go to the pyramid to deal with Anubis or the mummy. And yeah, he he can't kill the pharaoh until the pharaoh becomes asymmetrical, and then he destroys it. And he even questions why did it do that? Because Kid's whole thing, there's I'm gonna look up some of the lines later real quick, because he just said some interesting things. Like, oh, there was one where he's talking to Shinigami, and who those 3 stripes that make you asymmetrical. He's like, they're fine, and kid's like, don't say that just because they bother me, and which like the way he worded that kind of implies that like he doesn't think Shinigami legitimately thinks that. He thinks that he's like just trying to make kid feel better about them, like, and then. There was when he gets to the school, he says something like, "As expected, it's perfectly symmetrical." Like basically, like kid sees like the perfection and like of Shinigami as like like kind of like absolute and and then, like he kind of like sees that as like the ideal that he that he wants to be, but he also like obviously he feels like he can't, and any slight imperfection he just can't deal with. So so he's trying to be so, and well, I guess the other thing is about the 3 characters is that you can kind of frame their conflicts under fear as well, which is a big recurring idea that we see, probably one of the main themes of the series, with kids afraid of imperfection, Black Star's afraid of not being noticed, maybe you could say, Maka weakness, so just wanted to bring that up because again, like I said, the prologue kind of sets it up, but we do get more later, so but yeah, the prologue's probably some of the weaker stuff, at least, like I said earlier. But it sets everything up, so it's fine.
See, yeah, the way that you framed kid's quirk there, like I'm already like now a little more interested in seeing where that goes potentially.
Right, like because it like I said, it's definitely pretty clear that like this is his issue, or at least to me, it seems like this is his issue. Him comparing himself to literally like what we see the soul comparison, where like Maka like looks at I'm gonna look at Shinigami-san's soul. I can't see it. That's weird. And then the fucking it pans out and you just see it surrounding the entire fucking city. Like that's what kid's comparing himself to. And he's like, I can't, like I need to be perfect or else like, so it's like, yeah, maybe that's not a healthy outlook, dude. But anyway, on to the real chapter 1, where it opens kind of like, even though we got, I don't know how, I wonder how this was published actually. Like maybe the prologue chapters weren't published and it just started, I don't know. But that seems weird.
Because the first chapter does do the whole, like, oh, this is Black Star and Tsubaki, this is Death the Kid, and so, like, it does kind of do the character introductions again in a way, but also not in the same, like,
right.
full...
Maybe the prologue chapters were published, and then they just still did it, like, as a first chapter anyway, because, yeah, they are, like, they introduce the characters, but they also, like... They don't, we know them already, so we don't need to know, like, it kind of gives us, like, a short version of their stuff, almost, like, we see, like, when Black Star gets introduced, he's talking about the assassination rules while being very loud and obnoxious about these rules, so you get, like, there's his character, there's his main deal, just in like, 1 page, so it's still, like, introducing you in case you don't know, but, at the same time, it's not going as, like, building this whole chapter around that conflict, basically. But anyway, they're told that they have to take remedial lessons, because, like, I mean, Maka, is pretty normal, but, Black Star Black Star's the only student at this point, like, he's too much of a genius for his own good, because he's great, but he sucks. So yeah, they're all, like, they're constantly, like, failing, but, because they're good, and it's kind of neat. I think I was going somewhere with that, but I lost my train of thought. Anyway, they fight Sid, the zombie teacher. And then you get the fuck... Okay, this... Like, it kind of... I almost had to laugh just because of how fucking absurd it was when, Maka's like, I want to finish this up and go home and take a bath. And then we get a whole... Like, I don't know about where you read it. I have a full color page of...
Oh, yeah,
Blair.
That's right. Yeah, it was in full color. And I was like why?
Just the shamelessness of it, like I have to like like okay, yeah, horny on Main,
it is very it's very committed in that regard. Like this is what you put the color page towards.
Like just
like it's very upfront about it.
This is chapter 1, and this is like there was no color page. No, there were some color pages at the start. Never mind, and then another color page later because why the fuck not? And on this of all things, like, yeah, let's see Blair naked in the bath. God, like, and yeah, just completely cutting into the fight and for no reason other than tits. It's just like, okay, respectable. It's funny. But yeah, you get, the conflict. Maka says, because the whole thing with Sid is that, he turned into a zombie to avoid death, as he's saying, and that where Maka's like, well, people, fear allows them to get stronger, because if they don't fear anything, they won't feel a need to improve or, avoid their now non-existent fears. And Maka's like, no. Shinigami even says that Maka has the courage to fight her fear, which is good, because do you have a favorite character from or at this point? Well, Krona would be my guess.
Yeah, if we're not counting Krona,
I'm curious about as far as because Krona's not in the main cast yet. Oh, whoops! Spoilers, I guess. I mean, I don't think it's that big of a spoiler, but
yeah, I don't know. Maybe Maka. It's between her and Black Star, probably.
I would say Maka. But so far, at least. Though I also like Krona, I also like Black Star. Kid I'm interested in. Soul's pretty good. The Tsubaki's okay. The Thompsons are probably the weakest of the main group so far. Not that they have nothing, but Kid just have they haven't given a huge amount of focus yet. Obviously, Maka and Soul are kind of the main driving thing, where Black Star is endearing and he gets his moments, and with Tsubaki. So. Sorry, I'm laughing because, during the fight, Maka does this big ol' witch hunt slash, and then she nearly kills Black Star with it.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. Black Star traps Sid. There's they find out that Stein is the one who turned him into a zombie. Through fan service stuff, of course.
Yeah, I really... Yeah, the first couple of chapters, I really don't like what they do with Maka, because even in, I think it was in the Sid fight, or maybe it was in a different one, but I remember one of the action panels, I was like, oh, this is choreographed pretty well. I like the way this is laid out. And then I noticed that her panties were showing, and I was like, God damn it. There later on, there's more that there's a shadow there, so it's more you can just focus on the action that's happening. But I'm just why do that? What?
Yeah, I mean,
it's a minor nitpick.
Normally they are really hidden, in this kind of action stuff. But it is kind of weird that they're. I mean, that's how it would be if it was real. I guess is the reasoning. But yeah, it stops later. So because it is. I don't know. It's weird. Maybe it's because doesn't happen commonly, or it's more attention grabbing when it does happen, or something. I don't know. I didn't think about it too much. I just yep, those are. Yep.
Yeah, but it was this part with I don't know, the part with Sid more that I was just See, Soul Eater, hopefully I won't have to complain about it too much, because people probably get annoyed by it. And I understand that it's a personal thing. I'm just not a fan. But Soul Eater definitely goes back and forth between doing things that I think are really cool and really interesting, and things that I don't. So yeah, Soul Eater is very. Even when I watched it the first time, it felt kind of middle of the road with the way it kind of would go back and forth. So I have very mixed feelings on it. I don't know.
Cause your score was a 5, again, 5-year-old score. So we'll see how you feel about the manga. But, yeah. I'd probably give it higher than that. Just because you did say personal preference thing in my I just it's just the fan service stuff happens, and I'm I've seen this a billion times. I just don't.
Yeah,
sure.
I won't. I won't go out of my way to nitpick every little instance of it, but yeah, it's the first episode, so I'll at least lay it out and say I don't know.
So anyway, we get the Stein hype. He's the first person to, he was a partner with Maka's dad, so he helped to raise the deaths, Shinigami's current death scythe. Stein's a dork, and he's kind of got the he becomes the teacher, so he's kind of doing that. Even at the start of the fight, he talks about the soul resonance and how Maka and Soul kind of naturally don't get along in a sense, because Maka is serious and hardworking, and Soul's rebellious and cynical, so they just not a good match basically, which is one of their big issues going forward too.
I do think Stein he's an interesting character. He's definitely a flawed character with I don't even remember what I was going to mention as an example. He's creepy. He does creepy things, and that's like part of who he is.
Well, there's later on where they're in like literally the last chapter where they meet one of the characters from another country, and they're like Maka's dad and Stein, and they're like, oh, the tattler. And Maka's dad's like, she told on me cheating on, or going to see other girls.
So,
and Stein's like, she told on me cutting up people and experimenting on their bodies. And Maka's dad's like, okay, I agree with that one. Like,
So Stein and Maka's dad do definitely come off as like they're kind of like the troublemakers. They obviously have like personality flaws that they need to overcome. Like for Maka's father, it's all about him being a scumbag and a womanizer and needing to like learn to, I don't know, be a better dad to Maka, and I don't know if Maka's mother will ever become a plot point.
That's one of those missing shonen parents that's been mentioned, and it's like, are we gonna see her? Because she's apparently a big deal.
But yeah, like with Stein, like I say this with love. I say it endearingly, but he comes off to me as the guy kind of going through not even like a middle-aged crisis, because he's not that old, but just the way that he acts, like he's like I used to be super edgy, but trust me, I'm still edgy. I still have the madness within me. I can still be cool. I can still be scary. But he's also kind of stuck at that like crossroads. And I think it's part of his arc too, like his conflict with Medusa.
Well, because the big line that they had that you made me you reminded me of is like he sort of fears his own madness, and he doesn't want to slip, like he's fine with things as they are because they keep him in check. Basically, he doesn't want to be worse than he already is. So that's his fear, you could say.
Yeah. I just think it's funny to view it from the lens of like, no, I'm like, still quirky.
I may be old, but I can roll with the cool kids. Yeah, no, that's funny too.
But then because he does also kind of have, I don't know if I'd say half-assed, but he has like, there's a degree to which he does try to conform, and there's part of him that like wants to stay within the system. But the way he kind of goes back and forth to me just kind of gives off a kind of like, oh no, I'm still hip with the kids.
Well, as far as like portraying mental illness goes, like general insanity is always kind of kind of weird sometimes. But I don't know. I'll keep an open mind.
Yeah, I hadn't even considered it from that point.
Yeah, like he's literally he's got a screw loose like in his head that he keeps having to tighten. Like, I mean, part of me is like, okay, it's gonna come out and it's gonna be either cool or horrifying when it does, or both. So that's just, I don't know, we'll see. Like I said, we'll see. Like I definitely liked what we got so far, but there's definitely this like I want to see more kind of thing, which is a good feeling you should have at the start of the manga, because obviously you want to read more. Or at least in my case, I want to read more.
Yeah, even though I kind of go back and forth on it, I do want to see where things go, because there are a few through lines that are interesting, and it's enough to keep me around. And that when the stuff that I don't like hits me, it's like, come on, but I can't let it go.
But anyway, as for the fight, it's cool. He's again, going to the good power balancing thing. He's like a really strong guy, but he's literally fighting them without a weapon. Like they even says like, a Meister without a weapon, like they could do the soul discharge thing, but it's still much weaker than without a weapon, and yet he's still kicking their asses.
Yeah.
Like Black Star gets a good hit on him, and then Stein immediately takes him out.
I also like the part at the end where he reveals that no, he's actually a good guy, and he was just teaching them a lesson. And at the end, Soul's like, "But you killed Black Star," and Black Star's like, "Hey."
So also there's another moment looking through, there's because you see Stein, he reveals his soul and just how like much stronger he is, and Maka, she kind of like loses it, where like, because she's kind of neat, because I feel like in a lot of the series we've covered, the character is very like headstrong and hard-headed and like do and fight no matter what kind of thing, for like the majority of them so far, where Maka's very much has notable self-confidence issues and a fear of her own weakness, and so like this moment of her like falling to her knees in response to Stein's power. Well, that happens to Natsu like close to halfway through Fairy Tail, where this is like literally chapter like 2,
Yeah.
So,
I feel like there's a degree to which it I don't know, like it's annoying, but in kind of like a relatable sort of way. Like obviously it's part of her arc, and that's like kind of the point, is that like she kind of struggles with this kind of she struggles with like her fear and having to overcome that, and wanting to acquire more power, and not being able to communicate with Soul properly, and they're kind of the back and forth bickering they'll do. But it's not annoying in a sense that, oh, this is bad for the story. Like, it makes it not fun reading. Like, I don't know. Mm-hmm. It's like purposefully annoying, if that makes any sense. If I could think of better words to describe it, I would.
No, it's fine. I get what you're saying. Like, it didn't personally bother me. Maybe it's because I haven't seen a character like this in a while, at least. Or I can't think of it off the top of my head, at least. Especially not as a main character.
Yeah,
so
because I mean, I did say that Maka is one of my favorites of the main six, if not the
probably
favorite.
Your second favorite. Yeah, probably your second, maybe third favorite. Well, because okay, I guess another thing I kind of know, because Vinny and What have both told me this, is that Black Star is like the best character in not just Soul Eater, but the manga authors like between both the works, and they both really like Fire Force and consider but they still like Black Star's like far. So I don't know what happens with this character later. But apparently he's the best character ever. So
more to look forward to, I guess.
Yeah, something to look. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, at this point I definitely like Maka. But I also like Krona and Black Star. But so I think our favorite characters are kind of similar right now. Just maybe a slightly different order. So but yeah, we'll see going forward. And yeah, Soul's even trying to tell Maka. He does tell Maka, like, it doesn't matter. You might, just because the Soul is stronger doesn't mean we'll lose. And you even see that later on, I think, when she's fighting Krona, or no, wait, maybe it was a different fight. But, just because I'm weaker, I'm still going to try. Like, getting that attitude of, like, do it, go for it, even if you might be weaker. Because, again, going, like, the Hunter x Hunter Bisky's, like, chart, just because you're weaker doesn't mean you'll lose. See, damn it, we're doing the Nen Show thing where we have all these series that we can reference back to. So, though, for me, it's only been, like, Fairy Tail Hunter x Hunter. But yeah, since they both have, since, Soul convinces Maka into the try attitude, she, she's able to actually do a good attack, though it doesn't do much. And yeah, there we go. Like you said, it was merely a ruse. He's a sadist, but he's still a teacher. And then he becomes.
You mean a sadist?
Sadist. No, I meant that he's sad. No, yeah, he's a sadist. I don't know words. I just read them. I don't say them. I can't say words. We went over this like podcasts ago.
I don't know. Sometimes I forget because I know you sometimes you have trouble with the Japanese word. I mean, I do too. I'm not Japanese, but English words. Sometimes it's a little
I'm bad
funny.
with English too.
I mean, not that I haven't done that before either.
Okay. Here, this is kind of funny. So Kid comes to school and he mentions the line I said earlier, where he's like, "Yeah, as expected, my father's school has superb symmetry." But also one thing I noticed that and this made me think of not the work but the author, because Kid says that he likes the number 8 because it's perfectly symmetrical, horizontal and vertical. Because Soul says that about the he's like 7. Your dad's coattails must be 7 feet long, and he's like, no, say 8 instead. I actually think the author likes the number 8 because, as we find out, like there's like 8 or weapons or whatever in the last chapter, or scattered around the world, basically. Like we see the glasses one and the eye patch girl, and of course Maka's dad is one of them. There's also 8 fire brigade captains in Fire Force, so I just realized, like, wait, this author likes this number because it keeps showing up. So just a random like weird thing I noticed, where maybe the author likes that symmetry too. But anyway, like our main characters meet for the first, and it like specifically like Black Star, Soul, and Kid, and they immediately want to kill each other.
I guess this fight was interesting in that you see that the other characters can. They can switch weapons and stuff, but yes. It's not like an optimal situation. Like it's not as simple as Meister uses a weapon and they fight, and so they're not interchangeable. It's all about soul resonance, and it's all about connections and stuff.
Yes, the bonds between, the two, the kid has good bonds with the Thompson sisters, so he's able to. So even though there's 3 of them, he's still able to he does soul resonance to get this. The guns transform, and he's got cool. Like, I don't even think we've seen him use this in an actual fight against an antagonist yet. Like, just when he's like it's called execution mode, and so far he's only used it against other main characters. So, which I just think that's kind of funny. It'll be cool when we actually see him use it against a bad guy, because it looks cool. But
yeah. I also think it was funny when the manga gets like a little like shoujo style-y, when Soul is like, oh, let's break up, and Black Star's like, what? But then there's like it's super dramatic, and then they hug it out, and it's like, yeah, and then Kid shoots him in the face, and it's like, my hand slipped. It's a fun little moment, because it's like, ooh.
Yeah, sometimes the humor is good. Sometimes it's, like when the pervert stuff, but, and ultimately the fight gets lost because Kid's like bangs got cut, so he's notably stronger than the Soul Black Star combo, but he's his own worst enemy. So
I did think the panel where I think when Kid does do that soul resonance, and you see his soul like surrounding him, and he's got like his face is just like the black shadow. I don't know, something about that panel stood out to me. I think that was one of the more standout panels to me over the course of this reading. Like, this is more when I think of like, oh, Soul Eater has this interesting aesthetic. Like, this is one of the first panels I'd think of.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of aesthetic, taking bets on commenters, take your bets on Mathwiz' aesthetic character. I have no idea actually. Like, Black Star seems at least like, thinking about this as story stuff, like that seems like they're a dumbass like Chitu, or he's a dumbass like Chitu. Although Krona also, Krona's not a dumb. Well, maybe a little in their own way. But I'm just trying to think, like, what character would it be? So
yeah, I'm not sure at this point.
Maybe it'll be the first time you don't have an aesthetic character from a series where you can't, pick anyone because no one stands out. As opposed to like Yu Hakusho where you had to pick 2 because you couldn't choose. Anyway, lots to look forward to going into deeper into the manga. But yeah, Maka and Soul's bond increases a little bit when he because he tried to go with someone else and it didn't work out. Like, there's even a little exchange where Maka says, like, you always say that I fight lame, and Soul's like, well, I guess I'm not that cool myself, after all, It's good. They're good. Then we get them. Well, see, the translation always often says, him with Krona, but, I wouldn't be surprised if, again, like, as we've discussed, we're, again, referred to basically exclusively through gender neutral.
Yeah, this is another one of those situations where I'm pretty sure, I don't remember where the link is, but, like, the author specifically, like, keeps it ambiguous, like, because there's even a joke in the time when Krona fights Death the Kid, where the Patty is like, oh, is that kid a boy or a girl? But this is, like, already after they've been gendering Krona as male, so like the joke kind of just goes over, like, it doesn't work because it turns out differently, because like I think at one point I wrote in all caps because Krona was getting embarrassed, I thought, and Kid talking to them, and then Patty made a joke, and I'm like, wait, Krona is a boy? Like, because maybe I missed the gendered stuff, like, or I just skimmed over it, but at least appearance-wise, my first instinct would be girl, mostly because of the, like, the dress aspect to it. Like, it almost looks like more of maybe a nun or stuff like that, than, where obviously the hair and stuff is more ambiguous, like, in the eyes. They're big, but, that's which is common to girls, but, I could see why it would be either, ambiguous, like I said, ambiguous, but, based on first assumptions, I out of context, even before reading it, I thought girl, but, so I don't, like, again, I'll try to stick to, just genderless, but I might, make a mistake, but anyway, we get, Medusa, who's our main antagonist for this first chapters, and we get an introduction to the Kishin, the Black Blood, as Krona, kills a bunch of people. Maka senses some soul stuff going on and ends up running into Krona. I do think this is an interesting sort of set piece, like this battle in like this church, and it's like, oh, it's got the door that opens to the inside, and that's something that keeps getting brought up, and then I don't know, Maka doesn't have ears, so she doesn't pay attention, and she's like, oh no, I can't get out of the door.
Yeah, see, they definitely brought that up. I'm not sure, like that specifically. I wasn't sure what to take from it. The whole door thing opening to the inside, because yeah, like you said, they did bring it up, but I just. I noticed it, but I didn't think of anything that I could, frame it with. But I definitely have things to say about the general conflicts.
I mean,
and stuff.
maybe the thing with the door, because I'm just thinking about where their second fight goes, and maybe it's Maka. Just like Maka has she initially struggles with picking up different like soul resonances, and like being able to like connect through that way. It being represented through her not being aware of her surroundings, that the door opens the door opens inwards, and she's not paying attention to that. So like she's not aware of her surroundings in a physical sense, which is representative of not being aware. I don't know.
Well, and I guess like because there's also the thing with Krona's sort of like the bubble that they put like in the mind, like, and they don't want anyone coming in, but at the same time the door only goes inwards. So maybe. Because at the end of the day, Krona does want to connect to someone and understand, like someone to try and understand them, which finally happens with Maka and their fight. So maybe the idea of the door only going inside is like part of the cry for help kind of thing. Maybe I don't know. Hopefully we have good comments, because Soul Eater isn't really discussed. Like no, I almost never see like people talking about it. Which is why, like, with Hunter x Hunter, like, discussing it was cool, but at the same time, it's a series that gets a lot of discussion,
Mm-hmm.
So where Soul Eater, it's a series that I've never seen discussed, so,
It's weird, because I do think of Soul Eater as something more popular, and I'm sure it gets discussions somewhere on the internet, but obviously we both make YouTube videos, and we both probably look to YouTube for a lot of, like, oh, what's, like, the quote-unquote, like, popular discourse going on. And I've seen Soul Eater like referenced in things, but yeah, rarely is it a big topic of
especially because just reading this stretch of chapters, I definitely think there's like enough here for a video of some kind, like of the kind of style of videos that we might make. Even if I might not want to make it, we'll see, because I did like a Yu Yu Hakusho one, so I could, and I got like maybe several Hunter ones planned. Like actually, except for Rave, there's so far nothing that I haven't wanted to make a video on after finishing it. Though obviously, like with Bleach, I'm working on it, I swear. I just need to get to rereading it, but I need to get to other things first. I promise it's gonna happen this year. But Naruto I made a video on, and I might make more if I reread it. One Piece, obviously, Fairy Tail, I'm working on the tirade and I have a Lucy one drafted already. Hunter x Hunter, yes. Yu Yu Hakusho, yes. So yeah, Soul Eater, maybe it will be a video. If I feel like it, so because like I said, I think it's interesting so far. So anyway, while Maka is there with Krona, we see Ragnarok. Ragnarok's kind of bullying Krona, and going to the bonds thing. Like here, you see this sword that's obviously not a good influence on Krona. Like they kind of work together, but in like a really bad way here. Like because Krona's the kind of person to conform to others. In a sense, and
yeah, so it's more of like the weapon using the Meister, but that's not how things are supposed to go.
Right. So they're able to have power because of it, but also it's a very like it's not a stable or it's not a positive power. And as we see at the end of the day, Ragnarok doesn't he's trying to make Krona stronger. Like he wants Krona to stand up for themselves. And because towards the end, like Krona finally like resists, and he's like, "You did so good! I'm so proud of you!" Like, which is kind of a plot twist because I didn't see it coming. But it does set up for, I guess, because like they do become, I'm pretty sure they become allies in some fashion in the future. So obviously Ragnarok bullying this actual like abuse victim is not good. So.
Yeah, that's I don't know. It's certainly an interesting aspect of their character. And yeah, Medusa Medusa's a witch, literally and metaphorically.
yeah, we'll talk about Medusa too. But anyway, they fight. We learn about we see the Black Blood in action and Krona's abilities, and a big big moment for Maka and Soul when Maka's in danger and can't the door only opens to the inside, and so Maka's trapped and Soul jumps in the way
Maka doesn't want to sacrifice Soul, but Soul is basically saying like that's what he's there for, like he's willing to give himself up, jeopardize his own safety for Maka's sake, but they're not on the same page, and so someone gets hurt. And
they're basically this moment sets up their entire conflict going forward, basically, where they're unable to resonate because they don't Soul is fine with Maka weak. He just needs to be strong and protect her, but Maka obviously doesn't want to be weak because she doesn't want Soul to get hurt. So yeah, it's neat. And we'll talk about it more in the future, I'm sure. Okay, so yeah, this makes more sense rereading it, but because the Krona is an attempt to create a Kishin, which are weapon and meisters who take souls, because death chooses whose souls are bad and whose souls they can take to make the weapons, and if you choose other souls, you become a Kishin, who we do find about Ashura later, but that's the reason WMA was built. But anyway, Stein takes Death Scythe and completely is basically able to fight Krona until though Medusa does intervene. Oh yeah, they do talk about the Soul Protect thing, which they talk about a lot going forward. So
I think it's interesting that these volumes have the color pages when obviously the Shonen Jump stuff that gets licensed, that doesn't have color pages. Although I think that's the case in the Japanese volumes as well. And I'm pretty sure Fairy Tail and Rave from Weekly Shonen Magazine, I'm pretty sure they also did not have color pages.
No, I'm pretty sure they didn't.
But this was monthly Shonen. What was this one?
I don't remember the magazine off the top of my head. 1 second. Well, it's also I mean maybe it's also the
Shonen Shonen Gangan.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I was also trying to think of who published the trend, or unless maybe it was I don't know if this is a fan translation or not. Actually, now I think about it, it looks good enough to be official for sure. No, I think it is because they got they wouldn't translate the next volume previews if it wasn't a official release. Yeah, no, there's honorifics and stuff. Okay, I'm just here it is. Yen Press, I guess, is the release or the publisher. So, anyway. Going back to the manga, naked girls for some reason. Why not? I guess I don't. Anyway, Soul is all patched up, though he's passed out, and as they discuss, he's got some of the black blood inside of him. Maka resolves to get stronger, and then so I kind of like how this reveal is done because we see that Nurse Medusa, who's always been at the school. But we as the audience got introduced to her as a witch first, and then we see oh fuck, she's at the school,
Yeah.
So which I kind of like, because we see that she's an antagonist before we see that she's closer. Where if because and then it also helps us the way we see it, where because the characters don't question something that the audience is obviously okay, what the fuck, because that's a witch. But since the characters immediately don't question it, she's been there a while, so it just immediately kind of establishes they're not gonna question because if she just I'm a new nurse here at the academy
yeah.
It's a little different. So I don't know, I just remember finding it interesting how the information was delivered basically.
I did think it was funny. This was another one of the I forget what they're called, but the little authored insert things at the end, the little comedy bits he had been putting in. He had mentioned that he had wanted to do, what was it? With Medusa's hair, the way it ties up. He had wanted to do it so that when she's in witch form, the right side or whatever goes over, but when she's a nurse, it's the left side. But then he immediately points out that he screwed it up the first time Medusa appeared. So he's this is the one thing I wanted to do, and I messed it up.
Also, I just noticed about her design. God, that's actually really good. Okay, so you know how her hair, it kind of goes down and it twirls together. It's I don't know how to. I'm probably going to mispronounce it, but it's a Caduceus, so it's like a caduceus. It's a medical symbol that's two snakes twirled together.
Oh.
So yeah, Medusa's hair. So it's like it's the connection between medicine as a nurse and snakes as Medusa, the witch. So I just noticed that I was like, hey, that because it's just her hair. Like it doesn't look like snakes or anything, but well, I mean, it's Medusa's hair. It is snakes. So I was like, that's a nice little design touch. That's good. But yeah, she's like, cheer up, you'll get stronger. And then the last panel is her making it really like she does these super sinister faces, and those are which are good. And her nose like completely vanishes.
Yeah, it really gives her the like snake aesthetic, yes, because the nose disappearing and the eyes sort of being different.
Yeah, no, it's definitely striking when she makes those faces, because it's always it's a big change in her mood too. It changes how it's spooky. So anyway, Soul has his dream sequence, which I guess we'll talk about a little later, because it comes out in more detail later. But there's a bit of an exchange where Soul's like trying to relieve her. He's like, it was my fault. Don't worry about don't blame yourself. And then she's just like, oh, I shouldn't worry him by being sad and stuff. And he's like, shit, I made her even sadder. So they're still trying to work it out. Oh god, this chapter. So this is a chapter they're gonna get Excalibur.
Oh yeah.
How do you feel about this? Because I've heard like some people think he's funny, some people think he's obnoxious.
I think the anime does more to drive home, like he's supposed to be an obnoxious character, yes, and I think the anime does more to drive that home. Okay. I don't know if it's just having the scenes like voice acted until like the timing is very, the anime dictates the timing. And then I think the anime also adds in some like extra material, I think in the second half, but I'm not 100%. Again, because I'll know more.
Years, yeah.
Yeah. Right. But yeah, like this chapter, it was just kind of like it was just kind of okay. Like it wasn't annoying.
Well, like for me, it was like this. Okay, now I have the context to these memes, because that face, that disgusted like grimace. Yeah. I've seen that face photoshopped onto everything. And obviously my legend begins in the 12th century. Like that is just a quote people reference Soul Eater, and they'll just say that quote with Excalibur, just because he's a jackass who won't shut up. And his soul can resonate with anyone. His personality resonates with no one. And then it's mostly introducing him, and it's a comedy chapter, which is good levity after the the stuff we just got, I guess, is the idea. I expect someone's gonna use Excalibur later. It's probably gonna be cool. But I don't know. Like, I expect him to have more relevance in general, just because I feel like he wouldn't just be a meme just for this one chapter. So either the anime does something or the manga does something. So, or maybe people just find it really funny and thought it was funny to keep saying and posting the character. I don't know. There were less anime then, Mathwiz. Okay, now we get the Uncanny Sword arc, which is focused on Tsubaki and Black Star.
This is another conflict that I thought was just kind of Like, I do like what it does for Tsubaki's character, how her conflict is that she so often doesn't stand up for herself, and she's often just kind of going along with whatever someone else is doing. But this is where she kind of has that moment where she's like, no, I have my own personality, I can do my own things, and then that'll keep popping up later when Black Star, whenever Black Star's around and there's other conflicts. Like, she has moments, like the part in the last arc that we read where Black Star is like, oh, we need to do more of this sword mode, and she's like, no, I'm not gonna do it, and he's like, fine, I'll just do it myself. So there are moments later where she does kind of stand up for herself, and
yeah,
I don't know.
And also with Black Stars, he's able to let other people have I do really like when she's in her mindscape thing, and he's protecting the body, and he just sits down, people are fucking wailing on him, and he doesn't give a fuck until they start to draw attention to Tsubaki, and he's like, if you interrupt, I will kill you. He's protecting her, and he's good, Black Star. You basically summed up the conflict. I wasn't, I thought it was fine. It did make me, Tsubaki a little better, but also, she's still, like, on the weak side for me, I guess. And we also did get a little backstory for Black Star about, Ninja Clan. He was just the last survivor when because, like, I think he was killed by or someone from DWMA, and, like, the Black Star Clan had been, or the Star Clan, rather, had just been killing people, and, that goes against the Shinigami systems, so...
his backstory is kind of almost swept under the rug in this initial setup. Like, it's mentioned, so we know that it's something that will probably come up later, because that's a big thing for him to just kind of be like, it doesn't really bug me. I kind of just exist as I am. So I expect that to come up again later. Maybe that's part of why he's such a great character.
Right. Well, I was just thinking about, because I hadn't thought about it, because, like, obviously the star marking for the Star Clan it's like a light color. I'm not gonna say white. It's white in a black and white manga. I don't know what actual color it is, like, visually in the anime or color pages off the top of my head. But he's called Black Star. So, he's like the opposite of the light color. But I don't know. But he's also still an assassin. He's just not a Star Clan assassin. So I don't know. Like I said, maybe setting up stuff for later. Because, like, I hadn't even thought about it while reading it, but, like, the setting up for the power, balancing and stuff, and the, by, having these characters be, flawed in ways that limits their power and stuff, like, and, fighting against characters who are handicapped, like Stein. It's good. So, this manga definitely has some, like, forward-thinking, just structure and planning elements to it, which is, good. And it makes me look forward to, the setup that I've been seeing even more when it gets payoff. So,
I mean, I could definitely think of how this would maybe influence Black Star's character arc, because he's always talking about how he's such a big shot and this, that, and everything else. But here's this big, detail in his backstory that would obviously influence why he is the way that he is. And at present, it's kind of just swept under the rug. But
even here, like, he's being, like, known and renowned, rather, but for infamous reasons, where he wants, like, he's literally just, like, he's the child of shitty assassins who just killed this town. Like, he didn't actually do anything, but he's still being known for something, not good. So, that's another maybe thing that will affect it. Also, I gotta say, I like the way that the mindscape is drawn is cool. Like, it's kind of the way that it has just less stark, like, inking, and it still uses shading and stuff, but it doesn't use, like, a lot of hard, like, full black inkings and stuff. So it just looks, like, you especially see it when she first goes in and there's, like, the moon, and it's all, like, it looks like it's all strings made as, like, in general. I don't know. I like how it looks aesthetically different. In not even like a super, like, it just maybe a simpler way, like it's just a simple way to make it without going too much, but it definitely looks like you can instantly tell, like, this is in the mindscape and not the real world, and this is in the real world and not in the mindscape, so it's good. And you get a big moment where she almost like, we get the flashback where she's doing things not because she wants to, but because she's thinking of other people, and she kind of gets sucked into the vacuum. She has her own thoughts and is able to pull out of it, because she does still have her desires, even if she hides them. If she has a fragrance, it's just kept hidden. So, which I guess does make her the opposite of Black Star, who never hides. I didn't think about it like that, but I guess I didn't think about it like that. Okay. The one guy in the bandana, as Black Star and Tsubaki are leaving, he goes, "I'd hate that guy even if he wasn't in the Star Clan." So, like, basically Black Star's, like, he's still being hated, but he's not being hated for, like, he's being hated for himself and, like, the attention that what he's doing. So, or what were you going to say?
Yeah, like, he's not being hated for his, like, ancestry. He's being hated for his personality, which at least is something he can control.
Yes, that's something that he influenced, like, which is what he's trying to do with his general, like, oh, I'm great, and stuff. Like, he wants to influence people, like, for himself, not for what made him, basically. So even if it's still negative, but it's better than nothing, I guess. And he does the uncanny sword mode for the first time, and he passes the fuck out because it's hard to use. That's pretty cool because it allows for this like temporary attack. It allows for him to be strong, but only temporarily. So it's makes for some dynamic stuff in the action instead of just like a permanent power up or something, which is cool. And I guess another contrast between the two during the arc is where you have Black Star, who is cursed by his heritage. Tsubaki was kind of blessed by it and disliked for that by her brother because the brother was supposed to get all these cool forms to transform into, but he didn't, and she did for some reason. So just another little thing I noticed. Anyway, next chapter is the witch meeting, where we see Medusa and then a few others like the frog, Iruka, Mizune the rat. We see Mifune and Angela again. So what did you think about this chapter?
I don't know. We see more of Medusa being creepy. I don't know. Things happen.
Well, we'll get there's more naked cat. That happens. And we'll talk about the soul dream in a second because we get the full dream with the little ogre ending with him coming out of Maka's stomach. But I guess I don't know what I want to say about the witch stuff is like the first thing that Erica says is she talks about how like she thinks Medusa going against the Jido UMA will it'll make the school target more witches and basically hurt risk all of them. And Medusa gets pissed and obviously she plants the snakes on them as we see later when she sticks her fingers in their mouths, which so she like later when they try to attack her, it fucks them over. But I don't know, I just thought, because like obviously there's the framing with Medusa's the snake and she's fighting a frog and a rat who are common prey of snakes, and like like the fact, even though just the fact that like Erica's thinking like, oh, this will hurt all witches, like she kind of thinks like prey, like even when like she thinks she has Medusa trapped. Again, like she's thinking, oh, you can't run away or you can't do this. Like she's not thinking that Medusa will fight them because she's Medusa thinks like a predator. Like she had
because even when she says, oh well, even if you unleash your soul protect, then I can just run away. Like it's not about how can I win.
Right. But Medusa's the one who's thinking about winning. Like even against DWMA when she does like kind of succeed in freeing Asha, even though she she's dead, and then and she didn't get to control him like intended, but he was freed. So not a perfect victory, but like she's I just liked how the predator prey thing was framed both in like obviously the motifs the characters are designed after, and then also their mentalities and how that feeds into their conflict. I thought it was cool, and because Medusa's scary and cool, and I like her creepy faces.
Yeah, I know this isn't really a spoiler because like it shows it at the end of that last chapter, but even at the end of the fight with Stein, she's not dead because you do see the little snake crawl in that sewer thing.
You're right. Okay, that's I can see because I was talking on my server and I mentioned like I said, I saw the end of Medusa, and my friend was like, oh, you mean? And I said chapter 23, and they're like, oh, never mind. So like. They thought I was thinking of something that happens later, so I guess I haven't seen the end of Medusa, so... Okay, but I didn't realize it actually showed up in these chapters, because I just must have missed that little detail of the snake.
Yeah, I think it was at the very end of the last chapter we read, or maybe...
Okay.
Or
maybe the chapter before that, and I just skimmed over it and missed it, so...
Yeah, because there's just a little panel of like a snake crawling into like a sewage or I don't know what it is.
Okay, gotcha. All right. I'll notice that, I'm sure, when I'm going through this again. But yeah, I didn't notice it. I
mean, then again, maybe I also caught it because I'm like, oh, obviously I know because I've seen more material.
Yeah, that's possible. But anyway, so we Soul's Dream. There's the record and the ogre. Who's trying to tempt Soul into getting more power through the black blood, basically. So that, well, like he even says, so you can forget fear, because if you have all the power, you won't have to fear anything. And I guess maybe this should be because I have seen more than obviously this chapter, because like he's at the end of the dream he comes out of like Maka's stomach. He's like breaking away from Maka, so maybe that's supposed to say like the best way he can get stronger is by leaving Maka, who's, I guess the idea is, the dream is telling him that he's holding her or she's holding him back or something. That's my best guess. So but the dream does come up later. So, and it's again the story's not there. I assume that they're not done with it. So, yeah, I guess the only other thing that happens in the chapter is like there's the jug with the water, and well, yeah, because like Black Star's training to get stronger to better use his sword mode, and Maka has some moments too. Well, yeah, because like she's been trying to avoid Soul and his wound, and she decides like no, she's gonna get stronger by acknowledging it. So on to the. I think, okay, we're halfway through the reading, I think. No, yeah, okay, almost there, or almost halfway. So, anyway, we get the immortal guy from the prison, because Medusa's planning for the eventual invasion.
Yeah, this was another chapter I thought was just kind of okay.
Oh, is this the oh no, that's the next one. Okay, yeah, that's right, they fight him. I don't remember if I got much out of it off the top of my head. I'm gonna skim through it again. Oh yeah, Maka and Soul wavelengths don't match. And yeah, the wolf talks about the whole, humans decided that wolves are bad, which, it goes to the whole Shinigami list bad souls thing.
Yeah, and I guess that does play into the thing you said about the witches, how everyone was so afraid that, if Medusa does this thing, then the DWMA is going to go after the witches. So I guess this also lumps him in with that crowd of people who are kind of cast out by the system.
In a way, yes, their whole system that decides that these people are bad. Like we don't know why they're bad. That's not. I mean, a lot of the ones we've seen are kind of like Jack the Ripper. He's just like a monster with big old claws. Like they're definitely not good. But at the end of the day, it's just it's just decided, and no one in the system questions it. Only those outside of it are the witches. Like what did Angela do wrong? She's just a child. Is it kind of similar to the Black Star situation where, the original witches did horrible shit, now all of them are condemned? What's going on? Mystery for later chapters to answer. But yeah, Tsubaki tells Maka and Soul to listen to each other, and they both agree to, they're finally able to resonate when they decide, they're gonna get stronger. Soul, he's like, I'm not all that strong, but who says I won't get stronger? And Maka is gonna, try. Soul's even willing to follow the ogre thing in his dreams, which really comes into play later. But yeah, the wolf just kind of loses because he's clumsy, and okay, sure, that happens.
It's another one of those encounters where it's obvious that, this is kind of like with Kid, where this is, this character's obviously more powerful, but if he were to really fight full strength, he would wipe the characters out, so there needs to be a reason why. Mm-hmm. So it's like mixing in the comedy with the thing.
Yeah. Anyway, then we're on to the written test, which was fun, goofy, more levity.
I did like some of the jokes in this chapter. Like you get the part of Black Star trying to steal the test, but then he just gets strung up in the class, and then that comes back later where Soul is trying to find ways to cheat, and Black Star is gonna write something on the board, and he's like, yes, thank you, and it's just his autograph. It's just his signature.
Yeah, and then Death the Kid is still he's such a perfectionist, he doesn't even actually get an answer down because he's it's and then
it reminds me of the SpongeBob joke where he writes the perfect most majestic the but nothing else, only for Kid it's his name, and then he tries to erase it, and because he's erased it so many times he tears the paper and then he dies.
Yeah, and of course Maka is the one who does the best because she's just a hard worker. And she's no cheating, no, she just studied and won and did the best, and she yes, Maka good.
It's a little interesting because they introduce a character named Ox in this chapter, and I'm pretty sure he comes up later, but they introduce him and he doesn't do anything. He doesn't interact with Maka or anything, but he's said to be he's the one who beat Maka the last test, but they don't interact at all. He doesn't. So I mean, it's a little.
Is there I'm looking through? Is there even a visual for him?
I think he's in a panel. She walks past him and is oh yeah, that's the kid I lost to last time.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which is I don't know. I just find that it's a little weird because. I mean, I guess to set up a character for later, but if you're going to introduce them and not have them do anything in the chapter they're introduced, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I see him. Okay. Yeah, well, yeah, I guess that is kind of
Because for the most part, this stretch of chapters does just focus on the main six, which I think there's a degree to which that makes kind of the school atmosphere feel kind of hollow because we don't see any like. There are some times where we see background characters, but they're just kind of background characters. There are other times where there's just no detail in the characters and they're nobody.
I'm literally like skimming through a chapter where they're taking a test, and I kind of didn't even think about the fact that they're at a school. Oh yeah, they are at a school. That's right. Like I just kind of like, yeah, they're at a school, but I didn't actually think about like, yeah, there should be other, like there's other students and other teachers, and
it's one of those weird situations where, you know, how many characters do you want to introduce, because then now there's too many characters that we can't keep track of or whatever.
Right, but or you'll get like the Naruto where, you know, there's a lot of side characters, but then there's like and a lot of nougat stuff, but some of them don't, and you know, is everyone gonna be MHA has 20 main characters in its class, and like they're gradually getting stuff like you know, but a fair amount of them haven't gotten anything really meaningful. So, you know, what should they be in like? So this is like the minimalist approach, but also like, yeah, you're right. It doesn't make it feel like a school.
It is kind of the opposite, like that you brought up Hero Academia as a specific example. There's definitely a difference in atmosphere there, where when you do have the school scenes, it like. Whether, you know, regardless of how you think about all the characters being there in the first place and slowly kind of dealing with them, they do feel like a group, like they do feel like a class. Whereas with the school here, you have the main six, and I mean, more characters will show up later, I'm pretty sure, but nobody else. It doesn't feel like a school.
Well, like Kid transferred in at the start, and Blair is even talking, maybe I'll transfer in, you know, like. Maybe Chrono will transfer in, you know, but yeah, you're right. It just does not feel like a school. You're right. But you know, just fun chapter.
I think the other thing I also thought was kind of funny was it more just dumbassery, because you have Patty like turning the test into a giraffe, and then she's like, "I'm gonna break your neck," and then but she still gets like 2 points correct because of just how she happened to make the pattern.
That I thought was funny because I was just like, what? Like, she literally made her thing a giraffe and still did better than the Black Starring Kid. So, very sad. And then there's the dumb, like, with Maka and her dad, because her dad, like, oh, I'm going to reward her, so buy a gift for her, but Blair fucked up. And, okay. Like, yeah, the dad's scum, but now Maka thinks he's even worse scum for Blair's fuck up, I guess.
Yeah, so even when he tries to be thoughtful and he's like, "Oh, I'll have someone else get it because she probably wouldn't accept it from me." But then even then, like, he's still
yeah.
It ends up not working out for him.
Sad.
He's an interesting character because I'm not 100% sure where their relationship goes, but it does seem to be leaning in the direction of, oh, Maka's going to maybe forgive him and there's going to be some reconciliation there.
Well, there's the moment later where, and I do like it because it's funny, it's like one of the last things that happened, but like they do the basketball thing and it's like, oh, Maka, if we lose, you have to go on a date with your dad, and you know he vomits because he's so happy. Like, that's funny. All right, but anyway, now we got the Black Dragon, where Kid is on a mission. He finds the pirate ship. I kind of don't remember this one.
Yeah, this one I thought was kind of forgettable too, because you have, you know, Liz gets separated, and she's scared of ghosts. That's a unique character trait. That's not it's another one of those, like, a joke that doesn't really resonate with me.
But I mean, I don't even think they really capitalized on it, but it you know, it's kind of like there's a funny humor factor to it where she's literally like a soul reaper, like, you know, she's working with the son of the Grim Reaper. And
yeah,
it's like, but no, she's afraid of ghosts. So
yeah, I guess I get that.
Yeah,
because there's also the part where the one girl, like, she's not even a threatening ghost. She's like, I'll take you out, you know, I'll guide you out of here. And she's like, ah.
And then the little girl gets mad when she's, spooked. And,
and of course, Kid can't fight because, symmetry. He only has one gun. He can't do it.
And Krona is there, and is also the Black Dragon because Ragnarok can look like that. See, I'm just like trying to remember. Like, yeah, they fought. Did I write anything down for this?
I mean, there is. It sets up that there's another Kishin that is close to the school, whatever that means.
And well, there's also the bit where like I think Liz was comparing, because like, you know, when they were out in the streets, like, you know, they felt like no one understood them and they didn't connect to anyone until they met Kid, and their thing, like, you know, Krona's kind of the similar, where no one has connected to Krona. And we, you know, which we do finally see later with Maka, but you know, it's sort of setting that up.
Maybe there's like a contrast between the two characters that isn't jumping out at me at the moment, but maybe with more context, maybe it'll be like, oh, I see what this fight was doing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like if you know put it like that, then yeah, Kid rejects everything that's us, you know, he doesn't need, like, yeah, and he doesn't really connect to Krona at all, I guess, for whatever reason, but yeah, the fight, he just sees the sun and it's like symmetrical, woo, and then gets completely distracted and whatever. Okay, Kid, you're a little annoying. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, Medusa is studying the black blood because Maka is starting to cough it up because she soul resonated with soul. Yeah, so that was a neat little interaction because, like, you know, we obviously the audience knows Medusa is a witch, and Stein's you know, he's a smart guy. But yeah, obviously he you know, he doesn't like out her then, but he definitely, you know, noticed the killing intent before she, you know, pulled it back and you know, like, oh, you're saying my face looks harsh or whatever. Oh yeah, okay, so I think we're almost getting into the big arc. So yeah, Sid goes to research some stuff and the place gets blown up because of the witches, or well, the frogs specifically. Kid asks Shinigami about the Kishin closest to us, shortly before everyone learns it, because yeah, then we get the Academy anniversary celebration. So Maka's, you know, trying to watch out for Soul, and oh, let's dance, and then Maka's dad comes in and Soul forces them together. He has a line where he's like, you know, I don't need you looking after me, but thank you. Like, you know, he's trying to be more independent, and you know, but Maka's pushy because Maka's good. Then we get Stein and Medusa dancing, and they're kind of talking about the like he basically says, like, why would a witch risk yourself by coming here? And they sort of have a little conversation about their deals, respective deals. Because, you know, Medusa's thing is that she wants, you know, change. She doesn't agree with the systems. So, you know, she's the Kishin is evolution. It's the next step, right? So we're gonna change. You know, she's gonna change it. And Stein is a scientist, so she like tempts him. And again, with his madness, you know, he's probably the character in the school who would be most likely to go with, but he does end up, you know, denying her. But yeah, they put up the barrier. They trap a bunch of the characters inside. And yeah, so they're set up with the ultimate goal where they have to keep Ashura from being discovered, or, you know, or unsealed. Oh yeah, there's a line in with Shinigami and one of the, I guess, people from the school, where like, oh, you know, we're being in this city made us used to peace, and Shinigami says, like, yeah, that's you know, being used to peace will make the world peaceful, so let's not destroy this peace that we have. But and the spread is cool where they're all like suiting up to go fight.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of funny because he's like, everyone listen up. Because he's gonna explain the big deal. And he's just like, yeah, there's a Kishin under the school. That's it. But no, we do get the full explanation. Where Kishin was the strongest, but he was also the most afraid, which is why he tried to get so much power. Which I guess goes back to the first thing with Sid, where, you know, Sid was he became undead to, or well, he was talking about how, you know, he was undead, so he didn't have to fear death. Where Maka talks about how, like, you know, being afraid is how you get stronger. Where Ashura is kind of like the extreme version of that, where he's incredibly afraid, but, you know, for that reason he's also incredibly, you know, obsessed with power, and he got a lot of it.
I do think that this arc is kind of interesting in how it does the trope of, oh no, you go on ahead, I'll take care of things here. And it starts to split the group that way, but it kind of does it in like I don't know if I'd say de-escalating order, but it definitely, like, it starts where Medusa is the first one to come out, because you think, oh, I think even Stein has a comment like, oh, she won't be the first one to show up, and then it's her. And so Stein, and then it gets to the next important fight, which is Krona and Maka, and then the other characters,
Well, Blair's
supporting
involved, too, for
characters,
some
the others
reason.
of the main 6. So I guess they're still main characters, but they're not the main duo, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I didn't think about that because I mostly thought, well, I noted how, like, they came up with this plan and then Maka subverted the plan because of what she wanted to do, because the original idea was Black Star stronger and is better suited for taking down Krona, so, Black Star and Tsubaki fight Krona, but Maka's like, no, I want to do it, so...
Yeah. It's because I guess the main thing I think of is like, oh, Sasuke retrieval, where you get all the fights building up and then it's boom, Naruto Sasuke. That's the clear climax. It happens at the end of the, it's the last fight that takes place. It's what all the buildup is for. And I mean, I guess this one still kind of does it because even though I guess it's a little weird in that regard because like the fight with Stein and Medusa, like technically...
Yeah.
They meet each other first, but it also happens at the end, so I don't know.
Yeah,
they kind of stand around for a
get what you're
while
saying.
and offer commentary on what's happening.
Yeah, I did think about that. Well, because you talked about back when we read Naruto, how it was really agonizing in the anime because of the Orochimaru Third Hokage stuff. Which I guess this arc also, like, not only having a snake-themed antagonist, but it's also, like, the kind of, like, big upset at the, involving the, big attack invasion during something else, I guess. I just randomly thought about that.
Oh yeah, and it's the arc that disrupts the status quo because now it's not, now the other characters have to go out and find things, I guess, because now they're or not on the defensive, or are they on the defensive? I don't know.
Yeah, they're defending the Ashura seal that was under the school, so yeah, they're being attacked, I guess. They have to go on the offensive to also, like, chase down.
They have to go on the defensive to return things back to normal, I guess.
Yeah. So I'm bringing it up now because like, why I don't. Blair gets, like, there's the mice with the relatives of the other one that Medusa killed, and Blair turns into a hot lady, and the mice combine to turn into a hot lady with a horrible outfit. I just want to throw that out there, like they just have like a weird fan service fight, and it's just like, okay. This is fight is generous, actually, now that I think about it. Like, look, when, like, because if we're gonna compare fan service, like, in the Grand Magic games, there's one with Mira Jane, having like the pinup contest with the other girl, and it's like that was both more shameless, but also like, it was actually like understandably integrated with what was going on. Where this was just kind of like almost like they're just there, it's happening, like. And it's not even a real conflict, like, which is kind of sad because
there's
otherwise,
no
like,
real like character growth or anything from it.
No, because Blair doesn't actually have a character, like, which is sad. Like, even like Patty is an idiot and Liz is more street smart than book smart, but like, and they're I'd say they're the weakest of the main 7, and then Tsubaki's fine. Tsubaki or Kid, because Kid's kind of, he exists. He's got an interesting conflict being set up, but other than that, I don't really care to see him generally. Where Maka Soul, Black Star are good. But then like Blair, like, barely even constitutes as a character. She's just like, yeah, she's hot, okay, and then she gets like a not fight against a non-antagonist, and it's like, why? Because all the other conflicts have been fine, even with Kid, who I don't care for as much. Like, so, okay, we're done with that. Let's never bring it up again.
Yeah, it's also just, like, the character, like, the Nezumi, like, this is also coming after the part where one of them died, and, like, they're under the impression... So there's, like, a darkness to, like, that alliance, sort of. Like, there's one of their comrades is dead, but they don't even know. But... that doesn't matter at all.
No,
because
it doesn't matter because tits. Like, I guess the idea was to have some levity in this otherwise, because this is otherwise the most serious arc we've gotten so far, and it's like, maybe the I don't know, not as much dark has happened in general, but it does go into Krona's like child abuse and stuff. So
yeah,
I guess the idea was like have this levity in otherwise what is the darkest stuff going on up to this point. But also it's not very good levity.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I'd kind of get that, but it also feels like at least if you're gonna have it there, at least do something. At least have idea. There doesn't feel like there's any ideas here. So if anything, I feel like it kind of just cheapens the. Like it's not levity that I don't know. Like I can't I guess it's there for tonal balance, but I can't think of how it. I'd almost prefer it not be there and just have it be a dark arc because I don't.
Yeah. Well, like
I don't know.
Look, I should not be saying Mashima does better, but goddamn, because I don't even want to bring up Julia because it was good, but there's a moment in Eden Zero that I thought was interesting because like a character is captured and with a bunch of other characters, like it's basically slave trade, and yeah, something like the ropes are tightening, and she's leaning into the sexual nature of it to like alleviate the fears of everyone else. Like she's being punished, and she's trying to make it so not everyone else is not afraid. And so it's like kind of like a joke, but it's also like meaningful into what she's doing and why. And this is Mashima, the one who made
it kind of takes like the power out of the situation, like she's
exactly.
in control, even though.
Yes, and because if she was defiant, then that would just give them an excuse to act like hurt her even more. But because she claims to enjoy it, then it's like, oh wait, they're like, what the fuck? What you're weird, and yeah, but it takes the power away from the captors. So it's like a meaningful, interesting kind of thing. And this is just it just happens, and these mice that combined are grieving of the death of their sister, and also they're getting in a really weird, sexy fight with the cat. For no reason. What the fuck?
I'm just waiting for the man service. At least balance it out. At least Mashima was willing to give us man service.
A little, yeah. We've seen Soul's chest, but, whatever. I don't know. I didn't even think about it as man service. But yeah, they run into Medusa first. Stein, gives them the plan, sends them ahead. And Maka gets a little moment where she's, kind of overcoming, being courageous again, where she's surrounded by all these attacks from a strong foe, and the only way she can get through is if she just goes forward, basically without thinking, and with moving as fast, with everything she has, and she does it, and Medusa's even like, whoa, that's interesting, she's impressed, and Maka's good. I'm just gonna say that again.
I thought it was kind of clever as well that when Kid escapes, he kind of does a rail grind thing on the arrows with the skateboard. That's a clever little escape route, I guess.
Yeah, it's a fun little thing. But anyway, they run into Krona, and Maka decides to take, because, Krona injured Soul, so she's ready to, she says vengeance is her motivation for doing it, but she's able to actually convince Blackstar to leave, because I think he even says, oh no, he just says don't ever do it, never mind. I thought I was going to say something about, taking the spotlight, but, saving Astra is more important, so yeah, I guess he wouldn't argue that. Do we just get the whole Krona fight? No, it's going to cut away around a bit. But I definitely think, I'm sure you'd probably agree, but the Maka versus Krona is probably the highlight of the series up to these 6 volumes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not even close.
Yeah, I should have been surprised with your general mood so far. But as someone who generally enjoyed the series up to now, this is definitely the part I enjoyed the most.
Yeah, because I feel like if I say that Soul Eater kind of goes back and forth with having things that I find interesting and things that I don't, and I definitely think Krona is a big part of that balance. Mm-hmm. Up to this point, at least. Krona... Don't betray me, Ohkubo. Don't do anything to hurt Krona.
So yeah, I'm reading in Soul's hey, that was a good attack. Do you think we got a chance of winning this? And Maka's not really. I don't know, which is it's good, especially in contrast to earlier with Stein, where she doesn't see victory necessarily, but yeah, she's gonna try anyway, and it's good. And Maka, I love the expression she makes when she's I may be weaker than you, but I don't intend to lose. And it's when it comes to the soul, I won't lose. And she gets these angry eyes, and her eyes are shrink a little bit, and they're different, lighter, and it's good thing. Good. She's so cool. Oh yeah, and I guess I probably should have noticed this before. Krona slits their wrist, and black blood comes out, as if the black blood being harmful isn't clear enough of a harmful aspect to how Krona operates. Like it's literally self-harm now.
Yeah, and there's the line where Maka's like, why are you collecting innocent souls? And, Krona has that line where they say, because I'm scared. It's about, and, not wanting to be abandoned by Medusa and, needing to get strong to deal with all the scary things in the world. And
yeah. Krona's pretty clearly like an Ashura Light, where Light or Ashura seem to be very afraid of everything. Krona definitely has fears that they can't, they're afraid to deal with. And, doesn't think they'll be strong enough to handle them, so gotta become as strong as possible. And that has some things we'll get into. So yeah, Stein and Medusa fight a bit. I just realized, because, like, Medusa's whole thing is, she wants to change, and, so her fighting style with the vectors is all about motion, it's all about movement, you could almost say forward motion, change, something that, changes, just the location of something. Where Stein I guess since he's working with the system, he does have, he uses his stitches that keep things in place. So, good, interesting, neat contrast. And then you get the fucking, like, gut punch where, Stein's like, oh yeah, that child you abducted is a failed experiment. And Medusa's like, oh no, I didn't abduct that child. Krona is my child. And it's like, oh fuck. Fuck you. Well, like, because even when during the ceremony, like, there's even a brief, like, I saw Medusa, and I visually I realized, like, oh, her hair is kind of similar to Krona's, and I was like, wait, Krona? No, that's Medusa. And because I noticed how they do look kind of similar, and then it turns out there's a reason for that.
I also think it's interesting, and this is where it kind of ties into the gender neutral language and why it would kind of be important to carry that over, or maybe not, but I don't know. When Medusa refers to Krona, it's almost exclusively using, like, it. Like Krona is not her child. I mean, Krona is her child, but it's more like Krona is an object. Krona is a thing. And when that thing does not serve the purpose that Medusa needs from it, that's it. So it very much, like, objectifies Krona, and, like,
right,
I don't know.
Krona's just a tool to Medusa. So
yeah. So you have, Stein saying, like, oh, that, what are you going to do with your child? Like, so Stein looking more at, like, Krona is a person. Krona is a human being. So it's not like, oh, Medusa uses it. That's technically gender neutral. Like, it's, I don't know. Like, I feel like the juxtaposition is kind of, so it's like, it's like a thing where Krona, I don't know, isn't, like, I would see it as, like, Medusa doesn't care enough to even think about, like, oh, like, what even is Krona? So I feel like if it was translated properly as gender neutral, I think there would be, like, a good juxtaposition with the language there.
Right. But of course there is just the, like, maybe that should change where, they, them as just general, like, as the gender neutral things, but, it does come across kind of awkwardly because we're not super used to it at times, I guess, especially when was this published, like, the mid 2000s, so, like, that wasn't even a thing then, as in the same way, not nearly as close, so, using male is just a concession for just, like, to have the language work, I guess, but we were pretty confident we know what the author was originally going for, so
But yeah, Medusa's not good. She's not good. She's an abuser. She's bad.
Well, she's a good antagonist, but she's an awful person.
yeah, good antagonist, awful person.
But anyway, they go there, or Maka, I think. Okay, no, it is gonna cut away again. I'm like, I see. Part of me is just like, let's go right into the fight, but no, it's scattered around, I guess. So it's better to go in, like, the order that it happened, because I'm going through the manga as we talk about it. So, but yeah, Krona is not impressed with Maka's strength. Like, they do the soul resonance, and that's it, really? Like, not impressed. Also, the one thing that's nice about how they're fighting, because they're both more durable than normal. Like, and that way, like, normally when you have sword battles, is like, you can't have the person using the sword actually touch, like, especially you see it, like, with Zoro. Like, usually his fights end in, like, one actual slash, because, like, they're swords, they're really sharp. But in this case, because of the magic supernatural aspect, like, Krona's super durable, so they're hitting each other with the swords all the time and making cuts. but or the scythes and the but it's fine. Because they're enhanced to be durable, so they're able to like they can be dangerous. Like Soul obviously has the giant scar, but
and especially once Maka gets into the madness too, and so they both have like the black blood, and so they both get like that power boost. Where, I mean, like you have like I love the framing once. Maka does kind of get that taste of the madness, where like Krona does the slash and she just blocks it with her arm, and she's just got that like smirk on her face. And
God, no, the crazy Maka or Black Blood Maka versus Krona is, it's good.
You missed the chance for alliteration, Madness Maka.
You're right. But we're about to, we're almost there. Should I even bring it up? No, the shitty fan service fight, and it's like...
Well, there's nothing even really to take away from it.
Well, I forgot about the audience member, too, where he's just, like, losing his shit over it, like, the whole time, and it's like, stop, please, go away. Anyway, okay, now we're into the good shit. Well, not that Krona and Maka wasn't already good, but now we're into the real shit, because, like, we get, like, the whole kill the rabbit, which I just realized is, another thing that a snake might eat. Well, I guess no, they're too big, but I just thought rodents, so, but yeah, Krona, like, is unable to kill it, because, Krona can't deal with they can't deal with or they had to deal with killing something, and then, I don't know how to deal with the darkness, and Ragnarok bullies, and the moment Krona says that, no, I don't know how to deal with it, Medusa just puts Krona, I keep saying her, them, back into the room.
It's so... Medusa, you suck.
And then Krona basically develops the sort of, like, the black blood as a sort of, just like, an alternate sort of mentality.
It's just kind of becoming numb to it all. So, like, in both a mental and, like, a physical sense, like, you just kind of... So, like, as Krona finally, like, gives in and is like, whatever, I'll do this thing, because clearly I have no choice. It's in that physical sense that Krona gains that durability through the black blood. So it's like...
You're right, yeah.
So it's kind of like a physical numbness going along with, Krona just continuously getting beaten down mentally.
Yeah, and, God, I didn't think about it like that. That's good. But anyway, then we get the, sort of Soul and Maka... Well, we get Soul's big dream sequence where, like, they talk about the record, how it's, because the ogre's trying to lead Soul to getting more power, but he doesn't want to lose his reason. And so the sort of concession they do is where Maka loses the reason and gets the power, where Soul is able to sort of be, like, her rock and kind of, like, keep... The way that,
and it's kind of portrayed through like, oh, you lead this dance, and so like in the it's kind of like visualized through that.
Yeah, no, I like how the whole dream sequence aesthetic or the unique aesthetic in the dream, where like he's got the suit and she comes in with the dress, and the record playing comes into it. Like they even mention how like or he mentions the record needle at one point, and they talk about how like it's it's on, like, or he's like, oh, you'll be trapped just like a needle on a record, and he even says like, well, the needle keeps jumping off, I don't know, it's cool, but yeah, they decide, and by using the black blood, they're able to connect to Krona, who and understand them, because which no one else has done before, and yeah, it's good. It's good.
Yeah, and I feel like this is a really interesting way, not like obviously in the context of the fight with Krona, it's good. But even in the sense that this seems to be building to something more, it's a way of kind of tapping into that power without necessarily like tipping the hand as to where, it's not like, oh, and now this sets up this thing. Like, it's not like they haven't crossed a point of no return yet, but it's clearly like, okay, they're dabbling in this power, which is, it's going to take them down whatever path this is going to lead.
Yeah, because, like, Maka does want strength, and this is a way to get strength, like, but, the only reason they're not in the bad space that Krona is, because, again, their relationship was a positive one, where Krona's stuck with Ragnarok, where it's very, again, very kind of toxic, like, even though Ragnarok ultimately means well, it's still, like, a kind of a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
So,
I guess this is kind of similar to, like, the Naruto and the Nine Tails thing, where it's like, okay, you can start to tap into my power, I'll give you some strength, but eventually you're going to come back for more. So it's a sense of like something foreboding. There's something more to come.
Right, because there's like, okay, what if Soul does lose his reason, and they, and now he's not able to be the rock for Maka to come back with, because, she's only able to do this because of Soul's sort of strength, So, like, I don't know. God, I want to read more of this manga already. I'm interested in it. Even, like, maybe at best I'd give it, like, a 7 right now, but I'm interested in it for sure, so... Okay, back to Kid for a little bit, apparently. No, wait, maybe for a second, as he's, like, Patty has a really commanding voice, apparently, where she's able to, like, spook him into action. That happens.
Yeah, the cutesy character has a, intimidating voice.
Anyway, back to Maka, and she's Madness Maka, fighting Krona. It's cool. Just beating the shit out of each other. And then we get Krona's, mind... world where Maka
the big 2-page spread where Maka first appears in the world, and it's this giant desert, and then you just see like there's this tiny little dot, and there's Krona.
Yeah, well, because they're able to resonate because of black blood, and Maka sees the it's a world of darkness before she finds Krona's soul, and we'll get to that because it cut away again. Oh no, never mind. Only briefly. Never mind. Okay.
What I also think is interesting about it is Maka describes Krona's soul as being dry, and then you see, like, this is what Krona's dealing with. Like, this is this desert that Krona is, like, all alone. It looks like a beach, but there's no ocean.
Did I write anything down about that?
I mean, I guess there's a literal thing later, because, like, then Krona cries, and there's water. It's not dry anymore. I don't know.
Oh, you're right, yeah. Because, like, I guess the dryness would be Krona's, like, loneliness, so, and also inability to, like, because Krona's never been given the strength to, like, shown how to deal with things. Krona was, like, Medusa just expected Krona to learn how to just, like, that was the, just do it, without no guidance, and the only way Krona learned how was through the black blood, through becoming numb to everything. I
do think it is an interesting, like, visualization for the conflict that's going on.
Yeah, well, and I was gonna, because the cutaway that I mentioned, Medusa talks about how, like, what do you get, mad when people throw away, like, tissues? You abandon things that you don't need anymore. And, again, completely dehumanizing Krona.
Yeah.
And Maka's dad gets pissed because he loves his daughter, and so seeing the shitty parent in front of him, like...
I think it's kind of interesting what his response is, because he does clearly get frustrated about it. So it shows that he cares, but he also doesn't really have any counter thing to say to that. So it shows that, like, he still has kind of room to grow as well. Because he's just like, you, and she's like, are you going to say anything or whatever? And then she just kind of pushes him away. Yeah,
and Stein's response is, if a parent abandons a child, then who can the child trust? And, like... Yeah, and they do need to find, like, in Krona's case, Krona needs to find someone else. That someone being Maka. Because Maka was the one who reached out and tried to understand. And now we get the Krona's, sort of Krona coping, I guess, where Krona creates the circle and talks to themselves or the shadow, basically, where, like, the shadow's basically picking through Krona's mind, and Krona just never, pass. Krona never, like, answers or tries. Krona never tries to deal with anything because, again, Krona doesn't know how.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's interesting how, like, because it's not like a separate persona per se, because the character's like, I'm not something else, like, I'm you, like, I am.
I'm a perfectly common emotion, which I assume is loneliness. Like Krona's literally talking to their loneliness as because, like, again, which they specify, like, Krona's still alone in here, like, literally with Krona and themselves, basically. So that's because they don't specify which emotion it is. That's just my assumption.
I mean, it could just be, like, emotions in general. I mean, like, because the shadowy figure does, like, cry, so you could say maybe it's sadness, but, I mean, really, when does Krona ever, like, show happiness or anything? Like, there's no real emotion from Krona.
Well, there was a little bit, like, a blush when Maka was talking to Krona, like, that was, very...
Oh, yeah, I guess some, like, embarrassment.
Yeah, Krona has, and, like, but still very generally muted, and, like, lots of weird expressions that aren't real emotions, because Krona doesn't know how to feel them, really. for the most part. And then of course when the loneliness, like when Krona is absolutely alone, because Krona even realizes that they were able to answer Maka when Maka asked questions, like, in a way Krona could deal with Maka. And Maka, little baby Maka comes in.
Yeah, and the little roar. It's
cute. And she's
of course Krona's like, no, you can't enter my space. Don't come inside this line. And Maka just wanders in and is like, what?
Yeah. And,
Maka's just so, I don't know. In this little imaginary space, she seems unaware, but that's not really what's going on. Maka is able to enter that line, not out of apathy or anything, oh, I'm gonna invade your space and project things or whatever, I guess in a sense, Medusa is someone that Krona, quote unquote, feels like they can rely on or whatever, but only because there is no one else. So Medusa, you could maybe, I don't think it's visualized, but you could say Medusa can enter that space, but not in a productive way, not in a way where Medusa's trying to do what's best for Krona or try to get on Krona's wavelength in the same way that Maka. I would
maybe say the reverse. Well, because Medusa never entered. Because Medusa.
Or you'd say never entered the space at all.
Yeah, she left Krona in the room and let Krona figure it out themselves. She never tried to understand or connect to Krona at all because she didn't see Krona as a thing. Or as a person, just a thing, rather. So that's how I would frame it. But yeah, because Krona does respond negatively to Maka coming into because Krona doesn't know because Krona, no one's ever tried to enter Krona's space before. Krona doesn't know how to deal with it, so he just says Krona. Now I'm saying he. What the? I don't understand. Krona. They say freak out because Krona doesn't know how to deal with it, and
well, yeah, because then Maka even goes so far as oh, this line's easy to erase, and Maka just gets rid of it, and then Krona freaks out.
Yeah, and then,
but no, it's because Maka even says it I understand your wavelength now, because no one tried to deal with Krona or even get on Krona's level and try to understand them, which I think is really interesting from. Obviously, there's the whole trauma and abuse side of it, yes. Where, I guess that's where I was kind of coming at it from someone like Medusa, being the only person who Krona really knows anything about, and so there is that, what's the word I'm looking for? There's just kind of that inherent conditioning that if Medusa rejects me, there's no one else, which I think that was what Krona even said back when they talked about being afraid. Yeah, if Medusa abandons me, if I don't get strong, the world is still full of scary things. And so, yeah, it's... Right,
because, Krona is basically, completely alone, and the closest thing, Krona has to anyone is Medusa, and, nothing is worse than being with Medusa, because, again, Krona doesn't know any other way until Maka... And, after Soul pulls Maka out of the madness and she's cognitive again, and Maka Krona's trying to keep her out of this, now that she's rejecting, before Krona didn't even know what to do when Maka came in until she did, and Krona freaked out. Now Krona doesn't want that at all, so
so Krona's with the spikes it's actively pushing people away,
even though it's her, it literally she gets impaled, she still goes in and embraces it. So I didn't cry, but I got the stage before misty eyes, I felt so
it's easily one of the strongest moments. It for me, it's the strongest moment up to this point. And I feel it's going to be a really tough one to top, but there's still more to go.
With the especially how because you can the whole gender aspect and Maka trying to understand even if it's
I hadn't even considered it from that perspective.
It's not even that. It's definitely there, because you were saying there's also the abuse and stuff. But
I feel there's a number of lenses you could read this through, because even from I don't know, does trauma count as mental illness? But even just from a perspective of dealing with whether it's someone who struggles with like autism or whatever kind of neurodivergence, like someone who just kind of operates on a different wavelength. And it's not about, oh, we need to make them, use them in whatever way benefits us. It's like Maka has to get down onto Chrona's wavelength and kind of understand how they operate and be willing to kind of extend that hand and be willing to work with them. And that's to me why it feels so powerful, because it can apply to like a number of different things.
The way that you can read into Krona, even like the primary stuff is obviously the abuse stuff, but that still doesn't mean you should discount the secondary readings, and it's just, Krona cries, and like I don't know how to deal with that, but like even though Krona doesn't know how to deal with that, like Maka isn't being pushed away anymore, and like I'm only seeing it now, but there you see them holding hands in the desert again, but now it's a beach. There's water there. Because the water washes over, and they have the smiles and the shadows, and Soul mentioned something that hopefully I expect will come up again. He's like, oh, the fear of dealing with other people. Even I'm afraid of that. But Soul is he does have this sort of like very harsh exterior with his like rebellious mean attitude, but he still does make bonds even in spite of that apparent fear. So it's like he's always been stronger than Krona in that sense. But the question is what happens after that. So
now that I think about it, though, you did mention the gender thing, and I think that it kind of clicked for me. Like if we were to view this from that lens, Krona not being either male or female, and Medusa, from that perspective, like, okay, you're you're a thing, you're not a person. That's also kind of interesting as far as like meeting people on their own wavelength and how you could potentially interpret this scene.
Right, because and again, like this is a series that's like when did Soul Eater start actually?
2003.
Yeah, so this is mid 2000s, and I'm not fully up on Japan's side of things and when and why, where and why, but still like this isn't like being published today, so it's still like accept Krona for who they are, even though, because Krona doesn't fit in and it can't really connect, because if you look at it from the gender, it's like all the other characters in the series are pretty, like they're male or female, where but Krona's a little, not really either, and that's a further like distancing thing, but Maka approached them anyway, and nice. It's like there's quite a bit here. And it's like I said, like we both agree it's our favorite moment so far.
But I also think it works really well because there's more for Krona to do. Like just being accepted isn't kind of the end of the journey. Like Krona still has to do more to I don't know, keep moving forward, face their fears, themes.
Themes. Yeah.
The ultimate fear, themes.
I guess the Nen Show really is scary, huh? I'm scared because all I talk about is anyway. But then we finally get the moment where Ragnarok comes out and starts bullying Krona again. And Krona's stronger now. And Krona punches Ragnarok.
Yeah.
And then he gets all like, oh my god, I'm so satisfied.
Like, do you know what it's like to be punched by you? And Krona's like, how would I know?
And then well, see, I didn't realize that Krona does the trope where it's like, leave this to me, go on ahead, except it's with Krona's own weapon. That's
and it's
like, because for Krona, this is something Krona they need to deal with, and so Krona invokes the trope. And
it's also like the way it's framed, like all dramatic, like I'll deal with this, and they're just like, okay.
And then Ragnarok's sexually harassing, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
You can't win them all, apparently, if you're okay. Have you touched Fire Force at all?
I've heard things, and knowing what I know about Soul Eater, I don't have high expectations.
Yeah, you're not gonna like any of the fan service with the one character specifically at all. Just throwing that out there because I've read it. Like, again, I don't mind it. But
well, at least this isn't the Ohkubo podcast. Right now it's just Soul Eater.
Patrons, vote us to read Soul Eater. If you no longer care about Vinland Saga, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, or what was the other one that did really, really well? Toriko, I think. yeah, if you don't care about any of those, make us read Fire Force. I need to reread it anyway because I didn't. Well, see, now now I have an in with Ohkubo stuff because I just this fight alone. It like, even if this was like the only good part, I'm like, okay, this author can do things that are good, and it's not the only good part of the manga so far. It's just the best part.
Yeah.
So it's like, because when I read Fire Force, I didn't have an in with Okubo's stuff, so it's like I didn't have an emotional attachment previously, so my friends who really liked it, like, they already really like Soul Eater, so, of course they're going to enjoy Fire Force too, but, so I would not mind rereading Fire Force for the Nen Show eventually, because I do think it does some good stuff, and the art is fucking amazing, at least, so, like, the fan service is there, but it's also a relatively small part, like Blair's art, I would say that from my memory, Blair is more in your face than any of the stuff. Yes, even that character in Fire Force. So, if you're adverse Mathwiz, also the anime apparently isn't very good. So,
yeah, I remember watching. The only thing I know about Fire Force is I watched the first episode, and it's got cool animation. I've heard it has some editing issues. I was kind of. It was kind of just okay.
What didn't like how they adapted the opening stuff, because like the beginning in the manga like didn't hook me in the first place, but the anime handles it even worse. So I don't know the details because I never watched it, but that's just what I heard. So anyway, yeah, this isn't an Ohkubo podcast, so let's move on. It's all downhill from here. No. But yeah, we get to the kid is going down there in the Ashura basement. There's a bunch of illusions going on.
It's actually funny that you say it all goes down from here, because I remember this being, when I watched the anime, I remember this being the arc I preferred. But then again, the anime changed some stuff, so I don't know.
Well, no, I was talking about just for the reading, because we hit the high point, so therefore.
Yeah, I get it was a joke, but I was like,
gotcha.
Ooh, there's layers to this.
I mean, I hope it gets better. I hope like this is the best part of the manga, but it was also really good. So, I forget if I had anything specific to take out of the big fighting and the Asura stuff. Like, like I said, there was a bunch of illusions, and all the characters on both sides are struggling with it. I guess we see Stein and Medusa again, and Death Sight's talking about how he needs to control Stein. Again going back to like the madness thing, and how Stein wants to be controlled, to keep from losing it, but yeah. Oh, that's right. They get stuck in a deadlock where if Stein moves to take her out, then she can kill him, and there's only like a slight % chance that he'll actually win, and they sort of get stuck there during the rest of the climax until things resolve. Did I have any takeaways from the oh yeah, I guess because the whole goal of the witches was to use the black blood to control Ashura, but instead during the fighting, Black Star just cuts the statue and frees him accidentally, so Ashura is completely uncontrolled. So basically no one wins, because the witches didn't get to control Ashura, and the school didn't get to keep Ashura sealed, so but Stein is able to deal a finishing blow on Medusa.
But I like how it does get framed as, it's again kind of, it's neither a win nor a loss, or it's still like a loss through.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, the moment of victory gave her the second where she let her guard down, and the madness creeping in allowed Stein to do the finishing blow, but it was I guess
oh, okay, yeah. Trying to think of something like maybe the reason for why it was like a mutual loss, sort of, is because ultimately the Medusa wanted change and Stein wants things to stay the same. So now so both Medusa's way of change is she's like the Kishin let's kill anyone and just be not a very good way to go forward, I would say, but also things staying the same is Medusa is right. That's just not how nature works. So both of them are in a wrong, and we don't have a compromise yet, because they're at least these two aren't willing to, or the school and the witches don't seem to be willing to compromise yet. So basically, so basically only bad things happen. So that's my suggestion. Because Ashura is freed, and immediately starts panicking about everything, because he's afraid of everything. He's also incredibly strong and immediately defeats both Black Star and Kid before escaping. Oh yeah, and we get the whole a cool little encounter between Ashura and Shinigami.
Yeah, this is when this is I don't know. This is the big setting the power ceiling fight.
Yes,
because you get to see, and you also get to see the goofy death be serious and sinister and spooky.
Two things I happen to like. I like to see like when the bigger characters go at it, when we've mostly been seeing the smaller ones, and then Shinigami's been mostly like a gag guy, but now he gets to be cool and have a serious fight. For even if it's not conclusive, but Ashura does escape, and apparently he says that I do not think we'll ever meet again. So it resolves. Medusa tries to get one last attack off on Stein, and he kills her. Oh yeah, but how did I miss the snake in the fucking sewer of Medusa escaping? I'm stupid. But I guess the way the arc ends is the madness will spread because Ashura is freed, so there's more. That's the effect he's gonna have on people, which is what Stein was concerned about. But then there's also mention that, even though it's nighttime, morning will come at the end. So, it's not a morning now. In fact, things are looking pretty grim. But morning will come by the end of the manga, hopefully. So,
hopefully,
right.
I do think it was really funny seeing that chapter where it's like, oh, they're playing basketball against each other. Maka has no idea what's going on, and she's just standing there.
Yeah, well, that's the next chapter.
Oh no.
Yeah, well, it's the last chapter too, so we're almost done because we just get a little bit of in between arc stuff.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Because we see the other weapons, Justin Law, Mari Mjolnir, and Azusa Yumi. So you mentioned the toilet joke already, where she's just like, "Don't you see? It's perfect. She can take all the shit I had, or the toilet can. He can take everything I've got." And then what Yumi says,
there's a serious back and forth. It's like, what if?
Yeah, well, he might not be able to take everything and just start choking. And she's like, "What?" See, of course, my thought when she points at the toilet is like, "Oh, if she'll accept the toilet, that means I have a chance."
Oh no.
I just thought it was funny.
Well, I don't know. Then she destroys the toilet. So.
Right, so I would be in danger, but I'd also be better than a toilet. I think. I hope. Oh no, let's not. Well, but yeah, they beat or with the weapons. We already talked about. We already talked about some of this stuff because the Yumi is the tattletailer, and I do like the joke with the. I'm with her on the tattling about you killing people's time. And yeah, Justin has a weird joke about him always listening to earbuds and not hearing anything, and it's like, okay, sure.
One of these characters I'm incredibly skeptical of, but that's I can't say why.
Okay, see, now that you bring it up, I can guess, but I'll put a pin in it. Because you also have a little, like I said, once we get through the next reading, we're going to be through what the anime adapts, I hope, or I expect. Because it only, like I said, it only goes to 10 volumes, volume 10, and we're in the first chapter of volume 7. So we're almost guaranteed to go past volume 10 next time. Let me actually look up the chapter real quick. Next time we're reading is chapter 43. But anyway, there's a personnel shuffle to keep people at the school. And since there's since that's where Ashura got out near. And they play the basketball, and Maka's good because she's like, I don't understand the rules, but I'm gonna keep trying, and she's cute, and casual clothes are nice. The outfits aren't amazing or anything. Fucking Kubo has some fucking fashion, and Togashi has some nice ones, but they're fine, they're good. It's nice to see them outside of the normal outfits too. In general.
Yeah, and you do get the moment where Black Star is like, oh well, I felt so bad about forcing you into this game, so I'll let you be the captain, and she's like, no. She's got the captain's cap, the backwards hat. It's a good.
Yeah. Yeah, and every time she does anything, they're criticizing her for not knowing the rules, and I also think obviously she had to go out with her dad, and when she approaches him, she's blushing, and it's very cute. And his reaction is ridiculous because he's I'm so happy I threw up. Like, it's dumb. He's stupid. It's great.
I remember in the anime, this was around the time I don't remember if it was these designs exactly, but the character designs do change a bit, like they have different outfits. I remember not being a big fan, but maybe the manga doesn't do that, or maybe the manga does, and it's the exact same designs. I don't know, they just didn't look as striking.
We'll see. Oh, are you talking about, aren't there 2 seasons of Soul Eater? Like, it's only counted as one on Mal, but I remember, like,
yeah,
Soul
like
Eater
if
and Soul Eater repeat or something like that.
Well, yeah, because what we covered basically the first 25 episodes of the anime.
Gotcha. So this is,
and it's a total of 51 episodes. So there's basically the second half.
Okay. Oh, so yeah, it's like, would have been change in production or staff or something like that. So maybe that's part of why you didn't, I don't know.
I think it was all just one continuous production, though. It wasn't a 2-season thing.
Okay,
unless you're watching it on Netflix, in which case Netflix always splits things into seasons.
The one I hate, the one that bothers me is The Labyrinth of Magic, and The School of Magic. One of these is season 2, one of these is season 1, and if you... I don't understand how you're supposed to know, because there's 2 separate entries on Netflix. Like... what? It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, but yeah, this is their levity between, after the hard stuff, like their way of like chilling out and relaxing. They're just gonna play basketball and teamwork and friendship and in a low stress environment and with funny penalties. Like, yeah, it's good and chill. And that is the end of the first reading of Soul Eater. So yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from, where there's like the good and the bad, most of the bad being the fan service stuff. But I don't know, I'm liking it. I think there's cool writing stuff going on. It's clearly building up to, interesting character stuff later. Even if, like I said, even if I don't care for Kid as much now, hopefully he'll get a good payoff. And obviously the Chronomaka fight was definitely the highlight so far.
I think it's more just kind of the same kind of apathy I had with when I was like going through Bleach. Like, I mean, there are different things, but like some of the episodic conflicts just feeling kind of meh. Like, this is where the story is kind of just getting its footing.
Yes, because like with Bleach, you did like Arnkar and Fullbring were your favorites, so you did like it, ended up liking it later into the story. Where this is like, this would be the equivalent of the Substitute Soul Reaper, where it ends on it's the episodic stuff. Although
I thought I had, at that point I had said like, oh, Kubo I think actually is kind of funny, and I would like to see him do a comedy gag manga. Ohkubo not so much.
Yeah, that's fair. Oh, speaking of which, after we finish Soul Eater, we'll be doing Soul Eater not. No, we will not be I actually don't know what's Soul Eater not.
Yeah, I feel like it probably didn't have... See, it's been so long since I've heard anything about Soul Eater not that I don't remember what people think of it.
But I've never heard anything good about it, or a positive opinion of it. So, I mean, I'll read it. Like, I'll try to read it myself, but doing a full podcast discussion on it seems like a bad idea. Especially when it's like, hey, Mathwiz, you want to read a slice of life comedy with these characters? There definitely won't be fan service every chapter. I don't know if there's fan service every chapter, but I'm not. I don't know. I like knowing, especially your clear preference here and Ohkubo's style. I'm a little.
It's not even that I'm totally averse to the subject. It's just like, I don't know. Well, it needs to be funny or like I have idea. I don't know. Like, just it being there for the sake of itself generally doesn't. I don't know. I don't vibe with it.
Like even there. I can't think of a takeaway from any of the fan service stuff that happened. Like, except that I think Blair's hot.
I would understand why people might not have a problem with it, because it is like in some cases it does feel just kind of tacked on. So it's. For me, it's like, why is it there? It seems kind of pointless. For other people, it could be, it's kind of pointless. Why complain about it? So I at least like get the perspective.
I mean, as usual with the general like pervert ecchi stuff, it's there to appeal to to kids, because it is ultimately a shonen manga. But at the same time, like, there are other series that don't have that. So again, personal preference. So like, yeah. But you can definitely do it in meaningful ways. Like, I'm really curious. So, if you follow the Weep Club, you've probably heard us talk about Plunderer, which is even trashier, but It's used it like it does these elements in really interesting and meaningful ways. Like there's a major character moment that also involves like the audience seeing a character's panties for the first time, but it's actually like really fucking good. And the fact that that happens and is real, what? This man is a genius. Okay. I'm gonna be reading his other previous manga, Sora no Toshimono, or what's Heaven's Lost Property, I think. That same author. But I haven't read that one. It's just a full, like, Plunder is like a shonen action thing, and Sora no Toshimono is like a ecchi fan service comedy. And knowing the author's style, he's a madman, a mad genius. So, my main point is that, like, yeah, like I've even mentioned Mashima like a couple times. You know, like the sexual stuff can be done in a way that like you take something from it, even if you don't like it. You know, Monogatari you enjoy. You know, it not because of the you know what I mean. We talked about it. So yeah, and yeah, he's not doing anything interesting with it. It's just like, look, tits, sexual harassment, whatever. The girl hits guy because guy, like, whatever. It's happening, you know. But yeah, it could be better. You know, it's not a game break for me, but it bothers you. That's fair. Anyway, we're done. Oh, next time we're reading chapters 24 through 43, so a little shorter reading.
How many volumes is that?
I think it'll be like 5 volumes. Like 5 volumes.
You better not be coughing up any black blood, Craftsdwarf.
Oh shit! Is that a symptom of coronavirus? Anyway, thank you for listening. Please stay safe. In the global pandemic, things are kind of crazy. Oh my god, what is wrong with my throat? Goodbye.